but even Japanese people, for example. And that seems odd, maybe because, well, wait a minute, don't they have their own composers, so to speak? Yes, of course, but actually it seems like when it comes to this kind of thing, the Japanese prefer Beethoven just the way, say, Germans, Europeans do in general Beethoven, right? For some reason. And you could do an analysis to try to figure, okay, what is it about Beethoven's music and not afterwards?
I think in the case of the Japanese, they're in their modernization period and Meiji Restoration. You look
They have
towards
orchestras.
Well, yeah, they look towards the Germans though, so specifically as for their model, like how they want to construct.
Well,
their
still
state.
today, yeah. I mean, you could of course go and listen to Japanese pop and stuff, and that's fascinating. And all kinds of interesting art is blossoming all over the world from that. But clearly, you could go and listen to a Japanese orchestra playing absolutely magnificent Beethoven, etc. You know, it's just amazing. So that's all fascinating. But where is Kant going to take us? Well, let's first see how serious the dilemma is, I suppose, with David Hume. I don't know if you had a chance to read. This is way into the book where he's already given us the dilemma, the discovery that he made when he was 18 years old. And like, whoa, and why did he discover this? Well, he is reading his predecessors. He's reading Berkeley, for example, George Berkeley. And when you read George Berkeley, remember George Berkeley's argument is against Locke, that you can't, without contradiction, argue that there's a material substance that, you know, is the thing in itself that's enabling me to perceive things. Because I'm totally locked into my perceptions. I'm totally locked into my my impressions, my sense impressions that I'm getting. I'm sure I have a mind, and my mind is doing all kinds of things with that, but basically I'm trapped solipsistically in the self that's me, right? And so I'm certainly presuming that there are things out there that's causing the effects that I'm experiencing from having an experience, right? Seems odd to think that all of it's just happening in my head, right? And remember, Berkeley's answer to that is, well, it's not matter, it's this whole complex of energy, which he called spirit at the time, that we call energy today, that enables us to have these experiences, right? You might say in a modern way of looking at it that he's actually being a materialist. And by the way, he's considered, George Berkeley, even though he's an idealist on the one hand, he's also considered a British empiricist, and a British empiricist says, I get all of my information from sensory input.
Yeah, I think his form of idealism is considered empirical idealism.
I've never heard that combination, but yeah, well, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, he's an empiricist?
Yeah, I think it's empirical idealism.
Maybe. Why not? It sounds odd because empirical.
Subjective idealism, but
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah,
because you're.
So in regard to Berkeley, it's referred to as subjective idealism, but other people also refer to it as empirical idealism. At least that's what Wikipedia says.
I wouldn't have
subjective
called
or
it that
empirical.
because I think of empirical as, you know, the folks like Aristotle that think, you know, the material world is affecting my empiricism. Even Sextus Empiricus, which is the sixth sense. That's an actual philosopher's name, by the way. Yes, I don't think we didn't talk about him at all, but I'll just throw him up there real quick so you can see how funny that is. Sextus, which means six, Empiricus, which means sense, right? There he is. I just think that's a funny name because we actually, the sixth sense, you know. I see clearly. Yes, good reference. Everybody's familiar with that movie. Pretty interesting. The Sixth Sense. So that's fun. But he's an empiricist too. Well, so Hume is reading his contemporaries, and they've very logically been leading in this direction. And his response to Berkeley, who is saying, well, the explanation for the persistence of everything is that this is all in some kind of mind of God. What else would you call it? A lot of people today wouldn't want to call it God because they don't want to believe in God. They think everything is matter in the universe, which, yes, is all energy in an arrangement, right? And what enables that energy in an arrangement to persist over time? The universe itself, the laws of the universe, things of that sort. But Berkeley was basically trying to rebel against where he thought Locke was taking the educated people, and that was in a rebellion against the need for God. So Berkeley took it right back and said, no, it's God that does this. See, so you still need faith in God and religion and me, because I'm a bishop and I'm, yes.
Would you say that Kant is sort of represents the, I guess, like partition point that would result
Yes.
in the continental versus, I guess,
No.
British empirical tradition?
No.
Where do you think that split occurred? Because he seems to take
Hegel.
from both.
I would say Hegel.
Hegel represents the continental split?
Yeah, well, it's kind of odd. I'll have to work on it a little bit when we get there to explain my thinking on it. Because actually the American pragmatists, which I think are the actual natural followers of Hegel, just, call it pragmatism. And I see it as clearly a Hegelian view of things. But most of those didn't consider that to be Hegelian. And yet the main philosophers that we'll look at were followers of Hegel. So it's an interesting dilemma.
Yeah,
Part of it is silly, and that is that at about the time that we were at war in World War II, and Germany was the enemy, people thought of Hegel as the German philosopher of the German state. They were wrong, actually, at that point. It was really officially Heidegger at that time, right? Or for Hitler, Nietzsche, actually. Hitler ordered his Schutzstaffel, his special forces, his special guard, right, of the SS, right, to carry, instead of a pocket Bible or New Testament, which is what I got when I joined the Army, they handed out camouflaged New Testaments. They're really hard to read. No, just the cover was camouflage. And soft cover, so it didn't, it was light, it just fit in your pocket. And it's an American tradition. You carry a Bible in your pocket like this because that's where Teddy Roosevelt was shot and the Bible saved him. The bullet hit right chest. And it still hit his chest, but didn't go very far, so he was saved. And, said a dictionary would have done just as well. He said, but no, that's not. But in any case, for Hitler, the SS had to carry a copy of
Zarathustra?
exactly also sprach Zarathustra, which we translate as thus spoke or thus spake Zarathustra.
That was his song from 2001.
the music that you're thinking of was composed by Richard Strauss. It's a whole tone poem, but it does start with that special beginning that is, and that tone poem is titled Also Sprach Zarathustra. And yes, it's Richard Strauss's musical interpretation of Nietzsche's book. Yes, yes. Talking about the Third Reich, though, and Hitler, the actual composer, living composer, that was the composer of the Third Reich, was Karl Orff. Heard of Karl Orff? His music is absolutely gorgeous, and no one complains about it being Nazi, because no one wants to get the music taken off the Let's Play list.
I mean, people complain about Wagner, though.
Yes, yes. Like Karl Orff. Fascinating.
I find it funny, though, is Heidegger, is that I don't think he ever, like, went out of his way to, like, condemn the Nazis.
He was an official Nazi.
Well, yeah, even after the war, he kind of became kind of, like, withdrawn, never distanced himself, but I think when asked, like, when interviewed and asked about questions, like, his thoughts and the involvement, he would never, like, outright condemn it, even until his death.
He did end up serving penalty time.
Yeah.
I don't think he was ever actually in prison, but he was banned from teaching for a while, I think about 5 years, which made him stay in Am Totenberg, which is Dead Mountain, but that's where he had a cabin.
Yeah. I remember I have a friend who tried going through Heidegger, and he sent this one excerpt, which was him talking about how, like, German is, like, the only true philosophical language. Like, you can only understand philosophy through, like, the lens of, like, the German language. That, you know, the Greeks, they come close, but the Germans, you know, they're completed the Greek project. And I'm like, what the hell? So, and that was like a later work, so clearly some of his, I guess, supremacist attitudes lingered.
That's where his cottage is. I think it's still there. You can go visit it. The family still owns it.
Yeah.
And stuff. But that's Heidegger, and we really won't have much time to do Heidegger. We'll do Nietzsche, and we'll do Kant. But how does this come out? Because Jung is following Berkeley and Locke and the others, and by the way, he also spoke Greek and Latin, and his of all time favorite author, according to John Passmore in that video that I showed, was Cicero. It's kind of interesting. In any case, he expands a little bit on what the empiricists have been doing, and that is pointing out that not only do I get impressions, all my sense impressions, these impressions that I'm here in this room and talking with you guys is what Jung would call a lively impression. And when I think about my mother, and my mother having a conversation with me, or my dad playing golf, good shot, you know, I can just picture my dad saying that. Those are less lively impressions. But they're still impressions, because if you think about what you're experiencing in your head, everything starts out as an impression that you get from an empirical experience.
Yeah. And then not only that as well, you also have all these pre-existing logical assumptions.
No, that's Kant.
Oh wait.
So we don't have those yet.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
So you're jumping the gun.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about Kant. I lost track.
You're jumping the gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in Hume right now.
Oh, we're still in
And
Hume, sorry.
Hume is dealing with this British empiricist project, which says we have a tabula rasa that John Locke called it, right? Blank slate on which experience is written, right? So we've got all this experience coming in, and I'm thinking to myself, how far back can I remember? I can remember the taste of baby nipples. You know those brown ones? I can remember those. I remember being in a playground under a pile of kids that smashed me into a pole on the fence. I had a lump on my head and went home crying, and my mom was upset. It was a big lump, you know. I remember, I remember the smell of the rug in the one living room. I remember the feel of the one giraffe, like a stuffed but plastic, really crappy giraffe that my parents had in the bed with me. Remember any of this stuff? You know? The taste of the bars on your crib? Did you ever chew on the bars on your crib? I mean, how far back do you go? You know, but at what point have you accumulated enough, sensual experiences that you're developing kind of a context and learning things, right? But for David Hume, for the British empiricist, the only things I know are what I'm sensing at the moment. And it's serious with David Hume because my memory of yesterday. What's the first thing you did? What did you have for breakfast yesterday? Can you picture yourself eating that breakfast? What did you have? Did you have a cake for your last birthday? If you're clicking your heels together 3 times, whether or not you're wearing, ruby slippers or not, are you thinking, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. For the empiricist, everything that I can think of, the impressions I have, are a result of some kind of sense input, and yet I can combine them. So if I've had all these sense inputs, such as a red cashmere sweater, I can think of that. But then I'm thinking about a blue one. My wife would like blue better than red. I've never seen her wear red. Although she did have one blouse that she wore that had like kissy lips all over them, red kissy lips. It was a really weird thing for her to wear. But normally she doesn't wear red, so she's better off with blue. I might not have seen the blue cashmere sweater if I'm looking like at a catalog, but in any case, I can imagine it, because I've seen red, and now I'm seeing that sweater, or I've seen blue, I've seen that sweater, so I can imagine various types of blue. By the way, I'm probably limited to the kinds of blue that I can think about because of my English language giving me the range of things that we call blue, which is not the same as when you translate it into another language that is translated as blue, right? And so there are differences culturally from one language to another.
I think I sent you a while ago, a few research papers where they looked into that.
We talked about